My name is Harper Cole. I'm 29, and a few nights ago, my own brother turned me into a punchline in front of people whose salaries I literally sign off on. He clinked his glass, dragged everyone's attention toward me, and said loud enough for the whole private lounge to hear, "Can we all give it up for my little sister? Still jobless, still figuring it out at 29. The room exploded. Some of them whistled, some shouted, "Speech!" And someone near the bar actually yelled, "Career mode, spectator." They laughed like my life was a meme, like I was some useless extra in a movie where they were the stars. None of them had any idea that every one of them had filled out onboarding paperwork for a company I built. None of them knew the faceless ownership group that controlled their bonuses was just me, a girl they'd decided didn't count. I didn't defend myself. I didn't list my clients, my revenue numbers, or the fact that the campaign they had been bragging about all night started as a sketch in my cheap notebook at a kitchen table. I just smiled, raised my glass, and let them think they'd nailed it. Let them believe the story they wanted, that I was the loser sibling, the one who never quite made it. Because while they laughed, I was already making decisions in my head, about contracts, about power, and about what it really means to flip a table without touching a single plate. They thought they were humiliating me. They had no idea that 5 minutes later, the joke would end with HR emails, revoked badges, and a meeting they would never forget. Before I walk you into that room and show you exactly what I said when I finally opened my mouth, do something for me. Drop a comment and tell me what time it is, where you are, and which country you're watching from. I want to see just how far a story about family, ego, and revenge can travel. The thing about being the jobless sibling is that it doesn't start the night someone embarrasses you. It starts years earlier, in living rooms and kitchens and school auditoriums, where people decide who you are and then never bother to update the file. Growing up, my brother was always the star. If you walked into our house, you'd see framed photos of him in jerseys and blazers and graduation gowns, smiling like the world had been built to applaud him. My achievements lived in drawers, certificates my mom meant to hang when she got around to it. They never made it to the wall. Our mom, Patricia, didn't call it favoritism. She called it encouragement. When he made the varsity basketball team, she threw a party. When I placed first in a regional design competition, she said, "That's nice, honey. Maybe you can help your brother with his project." I learned early that in our family, charisma beat quiet effort every time. The first time my brother, Dylan, stole something from me, it wasn't money, it was credit. I was 14, he was 17, and he forgot to tell the judges at his business club competition that the app mock-up he was presenting was mine. I'd stayed up 3 nights stitching together screens in free design software on a second-hand laptop. He took first place. Everyone cheered, and he let them call him a natural, while I clapped from the back of the auditorium. That wasn't the last time. He got used to standing in spotlights I wired for him in the dark. I got used to swallowing it. Fast forward to my mid-20s. While everyone thought I was drifting, I was building something that didn't look like success to my family because it didn't fit their script. No corner office with my name on the door. No corporate ladder. Just me, a rented desk in a co-working space, and an embarrassing amount of caffeine as I built a boutique creative agency called Brightline Collective. We did digital strategy and content for brands that wanted to feel young and loud online. At first, it was just me and a few freelancers. Then it was me and 2 full-timers. Then it was me and a team of 20, with clients whose logos my parents recognized from TV commercials. But here's the part that would make your eyebrows raise. Almost no one, including my family, knew I owned Brightline. Publicly, my COO, Jordan Hayes, was the visible face of the agency. He did the interviews, took the stage, smiled for the industry lists. On paper, he was CEO. Behind the scenes, the controlling ownership sat quietly under an LLC with my name on it. That was intentional. I wanted to build something without my family's commentary, without my brother trying to take credit or my mom comparing us like we were contestants. So when they asked how work was going, I said what they'd already decided to believe. I'm freelancing. I'm figuring things out. It's fine. It stayed that way for years, right up until the day Brightline's HR manager, not knowing she was talking to the owner's sister, showed me a resume and said, "We got a referral from a family friend for this guy. Seems charming, a bit light on actual results. But his references talk about him like he's a wizard with clients." At the top of the resume was my brother's name, Dylan Cole. My stomach dropped. He'd applied for a senior account manager role at my agency. Under experience, he'd glossed over 2 jobs he'd quit and padded numbers that didn't belong to him. Typical. Jordan liked his confidence and the way he could talk his way through mock scenarios. He could be great in front of clients, he told me. We can coach him on the rest. He didn't know that the person he was trying to sell me on was the same kid who once told me, "You're good as a behind-the-scenes type. Not everyone is meant to be seen." I had a choice: block the hire and reveal myself, or let Dylan in and see what he did when he thought he was just another employee. In a moment that now feels like foreshadowing, I said, "If the team thinks he's a fit, let's try him." So Dylan joined Brightline without ever connecting the dots. The company didn't have my name on it. The building was a converted warehouse downtown, all exposed brick and neon logos. Nothing like the beige offices my parents imagined when they thought real job. Dylan thought I was drifting between gigs, crashing on couches, and helping out here and there. The few times he saw me at the office, he assumed I was just visiting a friend. He never bothered to ask what, exactly, I did there. It fit the story in his head. He was the one on a career path, and I was the creative wanderer. The night he mocked me, still jobless, was just the latest chapter in a script he'd been reading from our whole lives. Only this time, he'd invited an audience I knew too well. Because those friends around him, the ones clapping and chanting and calling me failure, they were Brightline people. Strategy leads, video producers, social managers, people whose first-day paperwork I'd personally reviewed when I approved their offers. People who'd sat in our all-hands meetings and listened to Jordan talk about our anonymous majority owner like some distant, faceless investor. People who had no idea that the drifter they were mocking was the one who could end their health insurance with a few signatures. When my phone buzzed in my pocket that night, it wasn't a social notification. It was an email alert from my personal inbox. Formal complaint, workplace harassment, anonymous. The timestamp was 10 minutes before my brother's toast. The complaint detailed a string of comments, jokes, and pranks by a senior account manager who liked to humiliate junior staff in front of clients. The initials weren't subtle. DC. I read the lines as the laughter roared around me. The anonymous employee added one final note. "I don't feel safe bringing this to HR because everyone seems to love him. If someone higher up doesn't step in soon, I'm quitting." I stood there, holding my drink, watching my brother bask in attention he didn't deserve, listening to people I paid to represent my agency chant along, and something in me snapped, not in a loud, throwing glasses way, but in the quiet, surgical way that happens when you finally realize you've given too much benefit of the doubt. That email became my line in the sand. Dylan thought he'd always be protected by our last name. My family thought I'd always keep the peace. Everyone in that room thought I was still jobless. None of them were ready for what would happen once I stopped letting them write my story for me. If you've ever hidden your success just to keep the peace at home, you already know how heavy that mask can get. The question is, what happens the day you decide to rip it off in front of everyone? At first, Dylan at Brightline looked like a win. He remembered names fast, made the interns feel seen, and turned dry briefings into something that sounded fun. We needed this energy, someone told me. I wanted to believe it. Then the patterns I recognized from childhood slid in. A junior strategist missed a slide, and he joked, "It's okay, you're not here for your brain anyway." People laughed. Her face didn't. At happy hour, he mimicked a video editor's stutter. In meetings, he'd say things like, "Let the kids take a pass, then the adults will fix it." All banter, all brushed off with, "Relax, I'm kidding." The reports came in pieces. A quiet comment from Lily, a DM about off jokes, a copywriter asking if we had an anonymous reporting system. My old instinct kicked in. Maybe they're overreacting. He probably doesn't mean it. That's the story I'd used to survive Dylan for years. Then we brought in a dream client, a huge beauty brand. Jordan and Lily nailed the strategy. The room felt good. Dylan was supposed to handle chemistry. Instead, he went off script. "I told our team," he said, gesturing at the client. "Even my little sister who can't hold down a job could get this one right." He laughed alone. The client didn't. He took another shot at wannabe creatives playing designer on their laptops. We lost the contract. Officially, different agency direction. Unofficially, through the grapevine. Someone on your team had weird energy and talked about his jobless sister like she was a joke. Didn't feel right. Jordan dropped the email on his desk with a sigh. "We need to talk about Dylan. People are avoiding his accounts. Now this." While we were dealing with the fallout, Lily sent me a folder. Screenshots of Slack threads, quotes from conversations, a voice memo from a bar. There he was, calling a junior designer our diversity hire, telling an intern, "If you can't handle pressure, go back to group projects." Bragging, "Even my unemployed sister could do better with Canva." The emojis? Laughter. Some from the same people who'd cheer later in the lounge. Seeing it all together killed any illusion that this was just edgy humor. It was a pattern. It was power used to keep other people small, and it was happening under my roof. I stopped looking for gentle explanations and started preparing. I asked HR to walk me through formal disciplinary paths. I checked what we had recorded, for training purposes. With permission, I sat down with a few of the people Dylan had hurt. They were angry, embarrassed, exhausted. Most had stayed silent because they assumed he was protected. In the stories, I heard old echoes of myself. By the time Dylan raised his glass and called me still jobless, I'd already made my decision. That toast didn't create the problem. It just told me, loudly and publicly, that he saw me the same way he saw my team. Beneath him. The next morning, I scheduled the meeting that would change everything. An all-hands that wasn't about campaigns or goals, but about who we were willing to be when someone's jokes started costing people their dignity. The invite subject read, "All hands, culture and conduct, mandatory. No emojis, no fluff." By 10 a.m., the conference room was packed. Some people looked tense, others bored, a few defensive. Dylan wandered in late with iced coffee, flashed a grin, and took a seat near the middle like he was about to watch a show, not star in one. Jordan opened. "We can't do our best work if people feel small or scared," he said. "Today isn't about blaming one person. It's about holding a mirror up to all of us." He clicked to a slide with an anonymized quote from a complaint. "I feel like I'm one bad joke away from being publicly embarrassed." The room went quiet. My turn. I stepped up, hit play on the first clip. Dylan on a Zoom call. "If you can't handle a client raising their voice, maybe this industry isn't for you. We can't all be fragile little art students." Nervous chuckles in the background. Next clip. A bar recording. "We're practically a charity for junior talent," Dylan's voice said. "Have you seen some of the portfolios HR sends? My unemployed sister could do better with Canva." This time, the room didn't laugh. They listened to their own past reactions echo back at them. Then came Slack screenshots. Relax, it's just banter. If they can't take a joke, they're in the wrong place. Underneath, a question. Whose comfort are we protecting when we call bullying banter? I faced them. I built this place to be somewhere people don't have to swallow their dignity to cash a paycheck. Hearing how some of you have been spoken to? That's not who we say we are. Dylan raised his hand, disbelief on his face. Are we seriously playing secret recordings? He scoffed. Anyone who knows me knows I'm kidding. You're making it sound like I'm some villain. If I hurt someone's feelings, they could just talk to me. Lily spoke up, voice steady but tight. Some of us did, Dylan. You told us we were too sensitive and made jokes about that too. You could feel the shift. The usual energy flowed toward the person calling it out, not the one deflecting. Dylan felt it, and his tone sharpened. We're in advertising, not kindergarten, he said. If we start policing jokes, there'll be nothing left. And you... He pointed at me. You don't even have a real job, Harper. You float around making mood boards and suddenly you're the morality police? The old version of me would have shrunk. Instead, I clicked to the last slide. Power isn't just what you have, it's what you're willing to use. You're right, I said calmly. This isn't kindergarten. In kindergarten, there are consequences for hurting people on purpose. At this level, there are contracts. After this meeting, there will be more conversations, and some of them will end with people no longer working here. Dylan sneered. So what? You're threatening me now? I'm promising this team something I should have promised sooner, I replied. No one is untouchable. Not even you. The meeting ended with more questions than answers for most of the room, but for me, the next step was clear. The public mirror was up. Now I had to close the door and speak to Dylan not as his little sister, not as the girl he could roast in front of clients, but as the person who actually had the authority he kept pretending to have. What happened in that smaller room would decide whether this was just another dramatic meeting everyone gossiped about, or the day Brightline really, finally, changed. After the all-hands, the office felt like it was holding its breath. People shuffled back to their desks in clusters, whispering in low voices, glancing over shoulders to see where Dylan went. He disappeared into a conference room and slammed the door, his body language radiating fury so loud it might as well have been printed on a billboard. Jordan lingered by my side, running a hand through his hair. You sure you don't want me in the room when you talk to him? He asked quietly. I need to do this alone, I said. As his manager, yes, but also as something else. I didn't add the word sister. Jordan didn't know that part yet. Very few people did. The lines I'd drawn to keep my world separate were about to be erased in one stroke. Back in my office, I opened my laptop to prepare for the conversation. I pulled up Dylan's file, performance notes, feedback, the formal complaint that had hit my inbox the night of his toast. As I reviewed it, another email popped into my inbox with the subject line, "Read today's meeting. Please read." It was from an anonymous address routed through our internal system. I didn't feel safe speaking in the room, the message began. But I need you to know this isn't just about jokes. Dylan has been telling people certain rules don't apply to him because he's tight with leadership. He's pressured junior staff to stay out late with clients even when they said they were uncomfortable. He's hinted that people who don't roll with his humor won't advance here. And last week, he told us that your job is basically to approve vibes, and that he's the one who brings real money into the company. I don't know how much of that you see, but from where a lot of us are sitting, he's been allowed to act like he's untouchable. Today gave me hope that maybe that's not true. Attached were screenshots. More of them. Messages where Dylan bragged about expensing personal outings as client meetings. A group chat where he rated coworkers' appearances on a scale and joked about who would never be client-facing. In one message he'd written, "Trust me, I'm fine here. My sister practically lives on Jordan's couch. She's not about to rock the boat for anyone. That line hit me in a tender place I hadn't known was exposed. To Dylan, I was still the girl crashing on friends' sofas, scraping by, existing at the edge of other people's successes. He had no idea that the couch I sometimes fell asleep on in Jordan's office belonged to a company with my name on the deed. A knock on my door pulled me out of my spiral. It was Lily. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. I nodded. She stepped in and closed the door behind her. "I know you're dealing with a lot, but people are talking. Some of them are scared. Some of them are hopeful. They don't know which way this is going to go. If Dylan walks out of that room with you and nothing changes, a lot of us are going to take that as our answer." "What answer?" I asked, even though I knew. "That this place is just like everywhere else," she said softly. "That talented people get chewed up so a few loud ones can keep playing king. I don't want Brightline to be like that. But I'm not sure I can stay if it is." Her words added weight to the decision already forming in my chest. This wasn't just about punishing bad behavior. It was about declaring, in plain language, what we stood for, and what we didn't. Any choice I made would echo through the building long after the story about the dramatic meeting faded. After Lily left, I stared at my reflection in the dark window for a long moment. I saw the girl who'd clapped in the back of the auditorium while her brother accepted a trophy for her work. I saw the woman who'd downplayed her success so her family wouldn't accuse her of rubbing it in. I also saw the owner of a company that deserved better than the quiet compromises she'd been making to keep everyone comfortable. I sent one message to HR. "Please prepare a termination packet for Dylan Cole, Senior Account Manager. I'll handle the conversation personally." Then, for the first time, I looped Jordan fully in. I walked into his office, closed the door, and said, "I need to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. Dylan isn't just an employee to me, he's my brother." His eyebrows shot up. "That's a twist," he said slowly. "And you still want to move forward with this?" "I want to move forward because of it," I replied. "If I can't hold my own family accountable, I have no business asking this team to trust me." Jordan studied my face, then nodded. "Okay, then we do it clean. By the book. No drama. You want me in the room?" I shook my head. "No, but I might need you after." The truth is, firing someone you dislike is easy. Firing someone you love, someone who never believed you were capable of that kind of power, is something else entirely. But before I could think myself into a softer option, I sent Dylan a calendar invite. 1-1, conduct and performance, mandatory. 2 minutes later, he responded with a single word. "Sure." You ever reach the point where the fear of confrontation is finally smaller than the fear of staying the same? That's where I was. Whatever happened in that room was going to change my family forever. It was also going to change Brightline. I just had to decide which future mattered more. Dylan strolled into the small conference room 5 minutes late, like this was any other check-in. He flopped into the chair opposite me, spinning it slightly on its axis. "So," he said, stretching the word out, "am I here for another lecture on tone? Or did someone complain that my coffee orders are too aggressive now?" I closed the door gently and sat down. "Sit up, Dylan," I said. "This isn't a joke." He smirked, but he straightened a little. "You really leaned into the dramatic boss energy in there," he commented. "Recording people and everything. Didn't know you had it in you." "There are things you don't know about me," I replied. "That's part of the problem." He scoffed. "Come on, Harp. I've known you my whole life. I know you. You're not about to ruin my career because a couple of interns don't like my sense of humor." I slid the printed complaint across the table toward him, followed by a stack of screenshots. "This isn't about a couple of interns," I said calmly. "This is about a pattern. You've undermined junior staff, made discriminatory comments, misrepresented expenses, and cost us a major client. When people tried to talk to you about it, you mocked them. And then you mocked me. In front of those same people." He barely glanced at the papers. "They're overreacting. Everyone's so soft now. And you? You're making this personal because of one stupid toast. It is personal, I said. It's personal to every person you humiliated. It's personal to every employee who watched you get away with it and wondered if this place was safe for them. And yes, it's personal to me, because you did it on my watch, in my company. He laughed, genuinely amused. Your company, he repeated. That's cute. You do some scheduling, boss people around about timelines, and suddenly it's your company? I took a deep breath. This was the moment I'd been circling for years. Dylan, Brightline isn't just a place I work. It's mine. I held his gaze. I founded it. I own it. Jordan is the public CEO because that's how we set it up. But the controlling interest sits with me. The anonymous majority owner everyone talks about? I tapped my chest. That's me. For the first time, he went completely still. The smirk fell off his face like someone had flipped a switch. You're lying, he said, but there wasn't much conviction behind it. Ask HR, I replied. Ask legal. Ask our accountant. Or better yet, think about every time you've heard someone talk about our investor or our silent partner, and how weird it is that I'm in every leadership meeting for someone who's supposedly just a project manager. I let you believe I was drifting because it was easier than dealing with your jealousy or our parents' commentary. That's on me. But your behavior here? That's on you. Color crept up his neck. So what? He said, voice tight. You've been letting me work under you like some kind of experiment? Enjoying the show from your little throne? I hired you because Jordan believed in your potential, I said. I let the hire go through because I wanted to believe you'd grown up. I stayed anonymous because I wanted to see who you'd be when you thought no one in the room needed you more than you needed them. His eyes flashed. And you decided I failed your little test. You decided that, I corrected softly. Every time you chose to make someone smaller so you could feel bigger. Every time you traded respect for a cheap laugh. Every time you guaranteed you'd be the most powerful person in the room by convincing yourself everyone else was replaceable. He leaned forward, anger sharpening his features. You think you're better than me now, is that it? Because you've got some paperwork with your name on it? Mom and Dad mortgaged half their future to help you chase your dream when you were messing around in that co-working space. I'm the one who stayed home. I'm the one who visited them every week. Don't talk to me about who's selfish. There it was. The family grenade he'd been holding. They didn't tell you that part, I said quietly. They offered to help. I said no. I took out loans. I maxed cards I wish I hadn't. The only thing they gave me was doubt. Doubt they thought was love. Are you sure this is realistic? Maybe you should get something stable first. I built this place in spite of that, not because of some secret bailout. He stared at me, searching for a crack. Even if that's true, you're still my sister, he said. You're really going to fire me? Make me the villain in your little company's story? What are you going to tell Mom? That you destroyed your own brother because a couple of snowflakes couldn't take a joke? I thought of Lily's voice in my office, of the anonymous email writer saying today had given them hope, of the clients who trusted us to represent their brands without turning their teams into targets. If I don't fire you, I said slowly, what I'm really telling Mom is that she was right about me all along, that I'm too soft to lead. What I'm telling everyone here is that their safety is optional when the person hurting them is someone I love. His eyes narrowed. You're serious? Dylan, I said, my voice breaking just a little around the edges. I love you. I will always want good things for you. But I won't let you burn down what I built just because no one ever told you no and meant it. For once in our lives, the consequences are going to fit the choices, not the story you've sold people about yourself. He swallowed, looking away. So that's it? He asked. You're going to strip everything from me in front of my friends? Humiliate me? Make some grand example? I thought of the lounge, the toast, the laughter that had rolled over me like a wave, the way he'd looked so sure that I'd never fight back, because I never had. "I'm not going to humiliate you," I said. "I'm going to tell the truth. What people do with that truth is up to them." Then I slid the termination documents across the table. "Your employment at Brightline is ending effective immediately. HR will walk you through the logistics, equipment return, benefits, all of it. You'll be paid out according to your contract. You're not being publicly dragged, you're being held accountable." He stared at the papers, then at me, hurt warred with fury in his eyes. "You're choosing them over me," he whispered. "I'm choosing me," I answered. And the version of me who promised this place would never become the kind of environment that broke her. If you ever decide to actually do the work, to learn, to apologize, to change, I'll be your sister on the other side of that. But I won't be your shield anymore. He didn't sign the papers right then. He stood up, knocking the chair back, and left the room without another word. HR would catch up with him. The legal process would roll forward whether he dragged his feet or not. What mattered right now wasn't his signature. It was the line I'd finally drawn. Here's something people don't talk about in revenge stories. Sometimes the real revenge isn't the dramatic takedown. It's the quiet moment you refuse to keep sacrificing yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. Still, there was one more thing I had to do. Not just for me, but for everyone who'd watched that lounge scene and decided their boss must think of them the way my brother did. I had to tell them who I really was, and what that meant for their future. Word travels fast in a company, but nothing spreads like the sentence, "Did you hear? Dylan's been fired." By the next morning, the rumor had gone from cautious whisper to accepted fact. Some people looked relieved. Others looked nervous, waiting for the catch. We'd all seen flashy crackdowns in other places that ended up being for show. I didn't want this to be one of those. So I did something I'd been avoiding for years. I put my real name where everyone could see it. A new all-hands invite went out. Company, update, ownership, and culture. Attached was a brief note from Jordan. "You'll want to be in the room for this." When the team gathered, the mood was different than the last meeting. Less defensiveness, more raw curiosity. A couple of people glanced toward the back, as if expecting Dylan to swagger in late with a story about everything being overblown. His seat stayed empty. Jordan opened again, but this time he kept it short. "You all know me," he said. "You know what I do here. What you may not fully know is who I do it with. Today, we're pulling back the curtain. No more anonymous ownership, no more guessing." He turned to me. "Harper?" I walked to the front, my heart thudding, palms damp. On the screen behind me, a news slide waited, our logo at the top, and underneath, a simple line. Founder and majority owner, Harper Cole. Next to it was a photo I hated seeing of myself, taken on the day we signed the lease on our office. I looked younger, tired, but fiercely hopeful. There was a beat of silence. Then the room collectively inhaled. A few people actually said, "Wait. What?" out loud. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Someone near the back whispered, "I knew it. I should have told you this a long time ago," I began. When we started Brightline, I chose to stay in the background for a lot of reasons. Some strategic, some personal. I was scared that if my family knew what I was building, they'd try to control it, or compare it, or tear it apart. I was scared that if any of you knew, you'd see me differently, treat me differently, stop being honest with me. So I let this idea of a mystery owner exist, and I let you think I was just another cog in the machine. That secrecy protected me in some ways, but it also cost us, because it made it harder for you to believe that leadership would actually step up when it mattered. I took a breath. Yesterday was one of those moments. You watched someone with power in this room use it to cut other people down. Some of you got hurt. Some of you laughed along. Some of you stayed quiet because you weren't sure anyone would choose you over him. I need you to know this. I saw it. I heard it. And I'm not going to pretend that's who we are. I glanced at Dylan's empty seat for half a second. As of yesterday, Dylan Cole is no longer employed at Brightline. That decision wasn't easy on a personal level. He's my brother. A ripple went through the room. Now the full picture clicked into place for them. The family toast, the bitterness, the layers. But being related to me doesn't give anyone immunity here. If anything, it raises the bar. If I can hold my own family accountable, you'll never have to wonder whether I'll make excuses for somebody else. I watched the faces in front of me soften. Some were shocked. Some looked like they wanted to clap, but weren't sure if it was appropriate yet. Now, I continued, we need to talk about that lounge, about what it meant when people laughed. I pulled up a still image from security footage. No audio, just a frame of people mid-toast. Faces blurred for privacy, but the context was obvious. Dylan at the center, arm raised, others around him in various states of amusement. The night my brother called me still jobless, almost everyone in this frame laughed. Some of you are in this room right now. I'm not here to roast you or embarrass you. I'm here to be honest. When you laughed, you weren't just laughing at me. You were laughing at the version of me he'd sold you. Useless, drifting, disposable. You were laughing at the idea that someone without a visible title doesn't matter. I let that hang for a moment. Here's the twist you didn't know. Every single person in that frame worked for me. You were toasting the failure of the person who signs your paychecks. And I say that not to flex, but to make a point. You never actually know who you're mocking when you decide someone is beneath you. You don't know their story, their power, their value. A few people had tears in their eyes now. One of the strategy leads raised his hand. I was there, he said hoarsely. I laughed. I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. Thank you, I said, meaning it. Owning it is the first step. This isn't about mass punishment, it's about a reset. That said, there are consequences for what we tolerate. So here's what's going to happen. I clicked to the next slide. 3 bullet points. First, we're instituting clear anti-harassment and anti-bullying policies with real teeth. Not just HR posters, training, reporting channels, follow-through. Second, anyone who is directly involved in encouraging or participating in abusive behavior, as documented in complaints and messages, will be meeting with HR in the next week to discuss performance and fit. Some of those conversations will end in improvement plans. A few will end in separation. I won't name those people here, but they know who they are, and they know what they wrote. I hesitated before the third point, then decided to push through. Third, and this is important, if you laughed that night and you genuinely want to do better, I'm not firing you for one moment of bad judgment. I'm inviting you to prove that you can be part of the culture we're building instead of the one we just shut down. You might be thinking, wait, what about the title? Didn't you fire everyone laughing? The truth is, I fired everyone who insisted on staying the person who laughed. A handful of people chose that path. They rolled their eyes in their HR meetings, called all of this overblown, and made it clear they wouldn't change. Their contracts ended. Their badges deactivated. They got the same corporate exit treatment Dylan did, minus the sibling complication. But others? They cried. They apologized directly to the colleagues they'd hurt. They volunteered to help rewrite our culture handbook. They asked, honestly, what can I do to fix this? Those were the ones I kept. Not because they were perfect, but because they were willing. I'm not interested in running a company full of flawless people, I told the room. I'm interested in running a company full of people who care enough to grow. If you're here for that, I'm here with you. If you're not, this probably isn't your place, and that's okay. But I won't let Brightline become a playground for egos at the expense of everyone else. After the meeting, something shifted. The gossip didn't stop overnight, but the tone changed. People started calling each other in instead of just out. Jokes got sharper but kinder, aimed at situations, not at people's identities or insecurities. New hires heard the story of the owner who fired her own brother, not as a juicy piece of drama, but as a reminder. She actually means what she says about respect. As for my family, that was messier. My mom called me in tears, accusing me of ruining your brother's life. I told her calmly that Dylan's choices had done that. My dad was quieter, but one night he called and said, "I didn't realize how big Brightline was. I'm proud of you." It wasn't a full apology for years of dismissiveness, but it was a crack in the wall. I took it. Dylan didn't talk to me for weeks. When he finally did, it was a short text. "Got a job interview. I'll figure it out. Don't worry about me." It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't understanding. But it was a step toward a version of him that had to stand on his own. People ask me if I regret it. Firing my brother, revealing myself, blowing up the illusion that kept everyone comfortable. The answer is no. The night he raised his glass and called me still jobless, he thought he held all the power. The real revenge wasn't firing him. It was showing him, and everyone else, that the person you underestimate the most might be the one writing the ending. If you've ever been the less successful sibling, the quiet one at the table, the person people laugh at because they think you'll never speak up, I want to ask you this. What would change in your life if you stopped waiting for their permission to take up space? And if you've ever watched someone get torn down at work and said nothing, here's your gut check. Next time, are you going to be one of the people laughing or one of the people standing up? Because in the end, that's the real twist in any revenge story. It's not just about the person who finally fights back. It's about everyone else who has to decide which side they're on when the tables turn.